this story starts way back when. You guys, everybody recognize this? Maybe not everybody grew up with this. Who is this?
Bambi.
It's Bambi and Thumper, right? Okay, so this is not how most technical presentations begin. So you guys all know that. But this story we're going to tell really quick, does start way back here in the 1930s. Well, Bambi was a revolutionary animation. It was really the first of its kind. Our kids have grown up with these Disney characters, things like that, but this was the first. And one of the reasons it was so awesome is because of the way Disney and his crew did it. Disney had this crew that became to be known as Disney's 9 old men. Now they weren't old at the time, but their techniques were revolutionary. They went back to, they actually brought this deer into the studio to do life drawing with it, so that they could learn more about how animals actually moved, how their muscles moved, what their expressions were like, things like that. And that's one of the reasons Bambi was so successful, was because, remember the scenes when they're running? There's lots of running going on, and then just how realistic those things looked. It was pretty amazing. Now, one of the things that came out of Disney Studio is that these guys articulated the 12 principles of animation. They came up with these 12 principles that made animation kind of more interesting and more engaging for people. And you can see there's a little clip here that shows some of those principles. Basically, this is a little clip. You can look for this online. It's called The Illusion of Life. It's really interesting, and it kind of gets into some of these principles. And you can see, here's one: squash and stretch. This cube isn't a static little thing. It's moving around. And here's another principle that we use in animation. Called, I forget which one it was. And actually, look, anticipation. Some of you were listening. So some of these, here's all 12 of them, and there's a nice little Tumblr blog out there that kind of covers all these. Now, you might ask, Alan, why are we talking about Bambi? Why are we talking about animation? That's not what we do. We're not a movie studio. Well, animation has some things to teach us, and it has some techniques and some tools that we can use to make our interfaces simpler, more fun, and just a lot easier to use. One of the problems that we have with I would say one of the design challenges that we face is that we have a lot of stuff, right? Like you've seen our list of filters that we expose to users. Thank you, Norton. We have a lot of little fiddly bits and form fields and knobs that people can turn. Well, not only is this entire domain of medical and healthcare stuff like totally overwhelming on its own, well, the interfaces that our industry wants to make are overwhelming. Just the amount of them. I think we're doing an amazing. Like when I look at where we came from and what we're doing with Unified, it's pretty amazing how we've been able to simplify. But how can we simplify it further? Well, animation and the sort of some of the techniques of storytelling can actually help us reduce some of the what's called the cognitive load for users, like the overwhelming, where do I look, what do I click on? There are some things we can do to that. So I'm going to look at a couple examples. This is Stripe. Stripe is a new, they kind of do, if you've ever been to Salt and Straw in Northeast or whatever, they have iPads and you can just run your little card through it or whatever. I don't know if it uses Stripe, but they do that sort of thing. It's a payment gateway. So here's a really cool little animation. I love this. Instead of just going to the next form field, I'll show you again, they have this nice little unfolding. Isn't that great? Okay, and that's using some of the principles of animation. Here's another one. Okay, I've got my card number, or I want to try and pay without filling out my stuff. What does it do? It shakes its head at you. Yeah. Silly user. You can't do that. I love that. Just a little, come on now. Okay. So it's mimicking a very human, reaction, basically. And it's kind of saving you the embarrassment of the person going, I'm sorry, sir, there was a problem with your card. Okay. Here's another one. Now, this person could have easily done like 3 different modals. Okay, engineers, you know what I'm talking about. 3 different modals that occupy the space to give them this message or whatever. But they kept it in this one little space. It's compact. They took, like, if you were to explode this out, it's 3 or 4 steps, right? But they kept it in this one space and they showed it to you in a progressive fashion. There's another one. Now, in animation, I spent years doing motion graphics and animation. I worked in the Flash mines for like 5 or 6 years, and I've done a lot of live event stuff. And what we just saw was the way I would have, like, explored this is to basically make a storyboard of like, here's the first state and the second state and the third state. So right here, we just went through several. There's the 1, the 2, 3. There's the 3 steps, and it all happened right here. User didn't go anywhere. We didn't overwhelm the user with any stuff. Not we, sorry, they made this. And it's really nice. Here's another example. Now, okay, so this is one of the quotes from the guy who put that article together of the examples. And one of the things that that I took away from this article that I read, and our other designers and UI people have been discussing this, is the way that the attention to detail that we just saw an example of builds trust. It builds user trust. Attention has been paid. Somebody has spent the time to look at this, to add that little extra bit of craft that they don't even know what it took to do that, right? The user. But things like that reinforce trust. Instead of being some ugly, heavy-handed way of saying, you know, hey, you did it wrong, you're bad. You know, they did these little subtle things that were, give them a little chuckle, or just they didn't feel negative about it. So that's one way that animation can do that. Okay, so here's an example that we've been playing with for our own, and I'm gonna show an example, and this example uses the principle of those 12 of easing in and out. Okay, so here's our regular unified screen here, and a user types heart. Cool word. We're also, by the way, this is also a style guide artifact that's in development. We're kind of trying to get the look of this thing and what's bold and whatnot. But I also thought this would be a good opportunity to explore, like, hey, what else can we do with this? Well, what if we have a little timer running? Okay, so the person has hit heart. Now maybe this user is a power user and they just hit heart and go boom. We've observed that in user studies. So they just go right on. They don't need to spend time here. They're a more sophisticated user or whatever, or they're comfortable with this interface. But what if this person types heart and they're like, I don't know what to do next. They're kind of staring at this thing. So what if after a few seconds we kind of added some helpful tips? We kind of go, hey, just show me, or if this list is really long, like we've talked about adding symptoms to this list and maybe more categories. What if that's really long and we kind of want to give them a little help? So we kind of show, hey, here's some other things you can sort of pre-filter by. And then if we picked one, okay, yeah, I'm looking for doctors. So not only have we helped reduce the load, and by not showing this up front, we're maintaining the simplicity of this. And I know that's a huge design goal that we want, to present. They look for heart, hey, okay, after a few seconds, we're going to help you out with this. Oh, cool. Now, not only have they filtered it and then, okay, yeah, I'm looking for providers, and boom, I'm going to click one of these, or I'm going to keep typing or whatever. But I don't know, I keep hearing, like, how can we find out what they want? How can we find out what the user actually needs? This might be one way. So this has an added benefit of going, this user cares about doctors right now. So that might help us further down the experience to kind of show them more stuff like, hey, you look for doctors, here's some other doctors. How can we be more helpful in that way? So how can we use these timeless principles of animation to make our interfaces easier to use and add delight to our user experiences? That's one of the questions that us as designers are considering. We have a lot of stuff, guys, to show these users, and one way to deal with that is to stage them over time. It's to figure out what's more important, and then progressively, we hear a lot about progressive disclosure. We kind of bandy that around. Well, animation is one of those tools, one of those methods that we can actually do that in a way that is a little more fun. Any questions?
Really cool.
Okay.
Very cool.
Thank you. Well, this will be available in our new Confluence space, thanks to Chella. At some point, the other Friday demos that we've done are there, and so this will be a video that you'll be able to play back, and you can learn all about the principles of animation.
Yeah,
Woo.
Yay.
Thank you.